What's going on, everybody? This is AJ Capasso here from Talking with the Source. I'm here with my best friend, Jonathan Keyworth of JK47 Paranormal Investigations. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Hanging in, man. Tired as heck. Tired as heck.
Can't tell, dude.
Ready for a nap, baby. Ready for a nap. But anyway, besides that, we have an amazing guest on today. But first, I want to shout out, we are live right now on Parapost Network Central on Facebook. So please head over to Parapost Network Central. And as well, we have Global Ghost Hunt that's coming up in the springtime, in end of April into May. So if you are a paranormal team or researcher, please head over to www.globalghosthunt.com and check it out and sign up, because we need some signups, you know? I mean, we have some amazing teams. We have some awesome teams that already signed up. So join a growing community is what I should have said. But
there you go.
Anyway, we have an amazing guest, my man. We have T. Allen of Ghost Hunter Advice. Let me bring him up right now.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
What's up, T?
So, John, go ahead. Start it off, brother.
Yeah, man. So we were talking back. You were doing business podcasts. You started your paranormal podcast about the same time Talking with Source started. So why don't you tell us about your paranormal experiences and what got you into studying it?
Yeah, so I started this back in 2001. Actually going out and investigating the paranormal, over 20 years of experience doing it. I grew up, saw some things that I couldn't really explain, and just decided to dive in. When I was 16, I got a car and a ghost hunting kit at the same time. One of those old school tri-field meters and the Geiger counter, and just went out and started going after it. Studied. I worked with Troy Taylor at American Ghost Society for a while. I was a Tennessee representative there, did a couple of events and stuff with them. Learned the investigation part. I was a licensed private investigator for about 15 years. Originally, when I gotten into ghost hunting, I was too young to be an investigator, and it's the same skill set. So I'm interviewing people, I'm digging deep into backgrounds, I'm doing investigations, setting up cameras, doing surveillance and vigils. And it was great practice. Spent about 15 years as a private investigator, gathering evidence, getting things ready for court. Everything from missing persons to homicides to divorces there. And started Ghost Hunter Advice. I wanted a resource that I wish I had when I started. Ghost Hunter Advice was a way for people to learn from the mistakes that I made, learn like what equipment actually works, what stuff is just fads, and get kind of a real deal. Now it's a live show, so it's I took down the podcast RSS feed, the websites and stuff, and it's just on Parapost now. People send their questions into ghosthunteradvice@gmail.com, and when I have enough questions, I jump on and do a live stream to answer them.
That's awesome. A good way to do it. Oh,
yeah. That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I mean, it's amazing because for you to shut down your RSS feed, like that's a huge aspect of your audience of where you could grow doing that show. But for you to take it to a whole nother level and say, nope, I don't need that, and focus totally on Parapost and focus on the people, I think that's absolutely awesome that you did that. That's totally cool to have a live thing where they could see you, talk to you, get their answers. And I think that's awesome that you did that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do the podcast and the RSS feed, but I really wanted that interaction. And then also my goal here with Ghost Hunter Advice, it used to be to grow it. And I was doing like some affiliate marketing with stuff and looking at growing and monetizing in this, but the way the paranormal podcasting and paranormal content creation is going anyway, it just made more sense to do this instead of, you're paying for an RSS feed. You might be paying for some marketing and putting that money in and not getting a return on it. I do other podcasts. I mean, I do a true crime podcast called Murder We Drink. That one's actually season 1 is dropping at the end of the summer. We're in pre-production right now with scripting and research, and then we start recording in 3 weeks, and then we got about 2-3 months of post before it comes out.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome that you're doing that. That you're like, sitting back, making all the episodes, doing everything you need to do. Now, are you going to release them one by one, or are you going to release them all together as a season? How are you going to do it?
So season 1's going to be 10 episodes. We're going to record them in a new episode. We'll put them all in the hopper. I use Libsyn, and they'll drop every 2 weeks until season 1's done. We'll be working on season 2 while that's going. We'll probably take a week hiatus. Season 2 is when we're actually going to launch the premium subscriptions. So we're looking at 18 episodes for season 2, with between 7 and 10 that are behind the paywall.
Wow, that is awesome, man. That is so cool. Go ahead,
So,
John.
so what's your go-to piece of ghost hunting equipment? Like, what's the one that you wouldn't leave without?
I would say a voice recorder. I do a lot of EV. I'm a sound guy, so I do a lot of podcast editing, and I hired by a couple of podcasts to do their editing and sound production. So I'm a sound guy. I like being able to take that, look at it, break it down, and actually see the waveforms and everything there.
That's
so.
Awesome.
What's your opinion on the SB7?
It varies. So it's one of those things that I go back and forth on when we're talking about ghost boxes. I usually use the S box from Ghost Stop.
Yeah.
But I've used both of them. There's mostly what I have found is that it's just confirmation bias. But there have been a couple of instances where I was at a mass gravesite. There were hundreds of bodies that were dumped into it was a field behind what was a Civil War hospital, both Union and Confederate soldiers. And I got a very clear, in a voice that was not on the radio, thick Southern drawl, "We're buried."
Wow.
So that one I can't.
Tell me when. I was going to say, could you explain it when you put it through your wave thing and through your audio spectrum or whatever you use?
Nope. So that was a very distinct voice that didn't match anything that was coming across the radio at that time. So with that, I didn't hear it at the time. I heard it on the recorder that I had running beside the device. So that one, I'm not sure.
That always happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that always happens for some reason. I feel like, there'll be sessions that I'll do with SHB-1 from the Hope Spirit, from Hope Paranormal, and they use like fragments of gibberish to different vocal sounds of like male, female, little kid, all that type of stuff to do focus sessions. They have mixed genders, and it's like a portal in your hand. And basically, I'm not sure if you're aware of the app or not that I'm talking about, but basically, I'll use it and I won't hear anything live sometimes, but then all of a sudden I'll listen back with my with my recording or with my camera, and I'm like, wait a minute, I did not hear that live. Like that was clear as day. Like why did I not hear that live? So I'm wondering if between me and you, and to all the audience, as a theory, I was wondering, do you think that they could be manipulating the device that we're using to record them and manipulating the audio coming out of the box through that way into the audio camera? You know what I mean?
Anything's possible. I mean, it's possible it's not even a they. Something that I've been looking into more is we're actually projecting onto the devices. It's our actual subconscious that we're communicating with, not an external force, but something that we're actually doing and putting on the. It used to be tape when I first started with tape.
Okay, so you believe that it's not something like external, like a spirit. You believe that it might be our subconscious actually putting it on there.
I think it could be a mix. If there is something out there that is a ghost or that is an external, an entity or I don't want to say personality, but a consciousness. Yeah. It could be that sometimes. It could be us sometimes. I don't think it's one distinct answer, and I think that's the big problem you run into.
I like that because I always wonder to myself. I say to John all the time, I'm like, what if it's us? Like, what if our intent so hard thinking about the subject, our thought just consciously
goes into the body. Think about it. What if spirit or whatever uses us to project that into the device. Like they can't manipulate the actual device. It's us, because we're here
True.
in this physical realm, and they're
But
somewhere else. It's hard
And that's
to say.
a longstanding theory among parapsychologists, is that whenever we see, like, we actually see a full apparition, or we see something standing in a hallway, it's not actually standing there. What we're seeing is the entity actually interacting with our perception and kind of hijacking that signal between the
that's
optical
what I
nerve in the brain
figured.
and
Yep.
overlaying itself. So, I mean, that's
Like the
something
pineal
they've
gland, right? Like
Mhm.
that in the center of the brain. Yeah, controls all that stuff.
Mhm.
No, that's interesting, man. Because like what I do every Tuesday, so I do targeting with the JK-47. I work on cold cases, and I do my SB7 back here, and I get all sorts of crazy answers working on these cases. And with you being a private investigator and stuff, I think we should talk more, man. You should see some of the stuff I've done, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
I kept this, and one of the reasons that I use T. Allen instead, I use a pen name or a stage name instead of my actual name, is so that I keep this away from my day job. But I used to go further, and I didn't put my name or anything out into the world that would link me to the paranormal. Like, you had to know people and who knew someone to get to me to have me do an investigation.
Yep.
And I got a call from this other private investigator, and he's like, "Hey, are you Tanner? Are you the one who does the spooky shit?" I was like, "Wait, what? How did you know that?" And he goes, "Yeah, so I got this guy, and apparently he was psychic. He was getting these signals. He's like, there's going to be a murder." And yeah, and he's like, "I don't believe in this stuff, and I never want to see it again. Here's the number, call him." So we spent a few weeks going through there. We never found the house where the murder was supposed to take place, but that was an interesting case. And also, I was like, okay, so people know I'm into this, and that's when I started coming out with the podcast. And
yeah. I would have too, though. I totally would have too after that situation. Like, you can't not after that. Someone calling you out and be like, "Dude, this guy knows there's a murder somewhere," and like, I would totally go and try and look for it. You know what I mean?
See, that's what I love, is meeting new people, and they ask, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a paranormal investigator." Their first reaction, just watching their face, it's either or it's, "What the heck?" Yeah. It's like, no, I love that, man. Geez. So you just do the podcast now? You don't do any more private investigations, or?
No, so I left PI work back in probably about a year or two ago. Like, I'll drop into it every once in a while. I'm still licensed as a PI, but my day job, I'm in real estate now. So I do real estate sales. Yeah. I had moved starting, I think it was 2018, 2019. I started getting more into the business side of investigations. So I was teaching people how to run their businesses, teaching people how to do sales and marketing and grow things. And I got more into leadership development and sales development.
Right on. So how's the real estate in Tennessee? Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
It's doing good. I might have to talk to you again, man. I got to get out of this blue state.
Hey, yeah, dude.
It's funny. I'm actually working on a case now. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's in Memphis about a DJ. He was pronounced dead on January 24th. His brother found his body, and he was decapitated. And his name was Slick Rick Buchanan. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It was on the Fox, your local Fox News and stuff. But
nah, you gotta stick away from news.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm working on it, and it's crazy, like the stuff I'm getting, and I just I guess the thing is, going back to that consciousness is when I'm doing these sessions, like, my eyes are closed and I'm just focusing, come on, Rick, come through, what do you have to say about this? Like, I'm not projecting the answers, but it's crazy, these answers I get, some stuff. So yeah, going back to the EVP things, like, I've had the recorder in my hand, and I have a hat that I could put the GoPro on, so wherever I look is what gets recorded, and I'll get EVPs on this, but not on this. I mean, So how's that work, you think?
So people have been arguing about that since we discovered that EVP was a thing. It'll be picked up on one microphone, but not the other. You could have two digital recorders, maybe like a condenser mic, a dynamic mic going, and it'll pick up on one and not the other. Sometimes it's the frequency of the microphone, we think. Other times it's how it's actually configured. There was one guy that I was talking to, he's an audio specialist, and he was saying he believed that EVPs only came through on condenser microphones because of the exposed electrical wire. And they would interact there, enter the microphone, and they would sound that way. He said anything picked up by a dynamic mic was probably a disembodied voice just because of the way the microphone works. But because we don't know how it works, I don't want to get too definitive with it. It's everything's up in the air. It's a whole lot of I don't knows.
Well, we had somebody on, and he has a special microphone piece that goes onto devices, and it's set between. What he did was, him and his team went and found, like through an audio spectrum, where exactly all the EVPs were coming from, what exact hertz, and he tuned this device to that hertz so that when you record on your phone or your recorder or whatever, the microphone only picks up that level of hertz that can't be heard, and then basically replays it where you can hear it in the decibel that you need to hear it in, or the whatever it's called in your thing, the hertz you can hear in. And I tell you what, like, he's gotten some amazing stuff with it. I was very shocked.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
The thing about technology like that is when it comes to sound waves that form voices, and this is the big argument against that, it's not going to, the sounds cannot exist in that range, and they believe they're being created when you're basically compressing or you're manipulating the files and bringing them down or up into our range to hear them. Yeah. But that one's been a long-standing theory, and people have been using different microphones and different hertz for or different frequency levels for decades, trying to pin something down. But with EVPs, I mean, if you go through and you listen to EVPs, you're on your recorder. If EVPs only happen on the ranges that we can't hear, why the hell are they showing up on normal digital recorders that are not recording outside those ranges?
Exactly. That makes no sense to me either. It's like, why is it showing up on a digital recorder? Because that's the only digital recorders are set at the range of our hearing.
Or why are you getting correlating answers to a question that you just asked 30 seconds ago? You know,
that's besides the point. Just the fact of you hearing a voice is just like, why didn't you hear it in person? You know?
Yeah. No,
definitely. So you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So what was your favorite place to investigate when you were investigating, or did you do like home cases, or did you have
a favorite home cases? Yeah, okay. So I went to Bell Witch Cave. I had fun there. It was spooky. It's a beautiful cave, but we didn't really get anything. It was a beautiful location. One of my favorite locations was one, and this was an ongoing investigation that lasted about 4 years. Wow. It was a wooded area. There was a lot of rumors about things that went on. We experienced a disembodied voice of a singing woman over a creek that was running through, moving through the trees. We saw full torso apparitions.
Oh my gosh!
A place in Cleveland, Tennessee called Fletcher Park, and it was fun. It was interesting. My first full torso apparition on a case manifested what was called the Spring House when I was out with another investigator. It was a little boy dressed in clothes from the early 1900s. Jeez. And it was an interesting case.
Yeah, I would say so.
Nicole has a question here. She said, "Is there a place where you would not return?"
There was one, and it had nothing to do with paranormal. What was that one? So there was somebody. We did an investigation. It was a residential investigation, and when I showed up, they were drunk or high or something. It ended up turning into this massive shit show.
That's the worst you can have. Is somebody who's literally messed up on something, and then at a location where you're going to investigate, or even being an investigator that's messed up on something, that's
Mhm.
actually very dangerous.
Yep.
You know, it's scary.
And that's the downside to doing residential investigations. Like there's all these places that you can go and you can pay to investigate, but going into people's homes where they're having where they're having activity, and you're not
Yep.
just there to investigate, you're there to figure out what's going on. Like you have
Right,
a reason for being there, and you're going to have more than one night. So
Oh,
like
exactly.
these things stretch out for months sometimes. There was one where they in their living room and going into a hallway, they were experiencing these apparitions, these moving lights, feelings of dread, and got down in their basement and found a DIY junction box right there underneath the floor where everybody was getting those weird
Wow.
feelings. It was just leaching a ton of
Wow.
EMF,
EMF.
EMF. Everything was going nuts. So
Wow.
an electrician exercised that house.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
there you
Yeah,
go.
an electrician exercise.
That's
I like
simple,
that.
right?
Yep. Electrician exercise that house. I like that. That was good. That was awesome.
So
Yes.
one of my favorite cases was in Tennessee. Actually, when we went to a home investigation, she was pulled by her hair over the couch and dragged
Mhm.
down the hall, and the husband was sitting in his chair when this happened, and they got these images of stuff flying in the room and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm there. I'm going. I want to get this stuff on tape. And through the investigation, I was there for 3 days, man. And what I come to find out is that it was her mom coming through the box, and she just wanted to say goodbye and wanted her and her sister to be together, and she was just trying to get their attention. And I think it's really weird that they can do that physical stuff, but I was so skeptical. I'm like, okay, let's prove it. That's the main reason I wanted to go. I was like yeah. But the biggest things I got was through voice recordings and the S box. I used that. I also used the Necrophonics app a little, and my SB7. I make sure to divvy it up so I see if I can get the same responses through different devices and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what it ended up being. And in doing all the home cases, 95% of the times I found out they were family members just wanting help to move on or get finally spread their ashes or something.
Mhm. Interesting. A lot of hours, like, and I still will go out if somebody calls me and it's interesting enough, or but when I go out, it's to create content. So there's if I'm going to investigate someone's home, they're signing a media waiver, and
Yeah,
this is something
yeah,
that's going to be
definitely.
for either for a book, for a podcast, for something like that. But I've found that when I go out and I talk to people, a lot of times before I even get to the house, I have them do a journal. So just go ahead. Every time you experience something, every time something is happening that's unexplainable, just write it down. Write down the time. Write down everything to describe the environment, everything to describe what happened, and that way I can take that journal and I can pick the best times to
Yeah,
go investigate if there's a pattern.
yeah,
Also, what happens is people kind of debunk things themselves. Well, okay, this is happening. Well, over this way, we've got a train going by, and that's what's making your table shake. There's things that we can tie to external causes for it. But I love what happens is when people start getting mindful about that. I'm like, okay. Also, I want you to see a therapist. So I want you to talk to somebody, see what's going on. And we have conversations about the stress in their life. We have conversations about what's going on, and we have conversations about their mental health. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. If people absolutely refuse that, that's a huge red flag for me, and I will cut that investigation right then and there. So if they talk to a counselor, if they're going out and they're putting more positive stuff into their life, I found before I even get out there, the hauntings just kind of go away. And it's not
yeah,
saying that like it's caused or like in their head, but maybe certain things are attracted to certain vibes. And now if you're putting out positive energy, you're starving that thing out, it leaves. Or maybe getting back to kind of what we talked about before, where we're causing some of the stuff. Maybe all that shit that's going on is a manifestation of all the
yeah,
energy that you're putting out. So either
yeah,
way, and
definitely.
if it makes it through all of that and we're still having activity, that's when I'll go out to a house. And I don't work with a team now. I go out alone. So we get
Yeah,
through all that
me
stuff,
too.
and then I pop out
All
there.
alone. Yeah, yeah. And Nicole had a question here. She said, have you guys ever had a case where it's like a hoax? And
Yeah.
I personally have. Like, I drove to Kansas and I got to their place and stuff, and I started doing the investigation, and I was like, this is kind of BS. And the lady's like, no, we're not. I was like, I gotta go, you know. I was like, I can't do this.
When I was an investigator, I was a forensic interviewer, and so I went out to this case, and it was local. So we got out to the house, and I separated the family, and I got the information from the mother first, who called me because she was freaked out. And then I got the kids, and I sat them down, and we started going backwards and forwards and sideways. I use cognitive. What I use is called the PEACE method. It's based on cognitive behavioral therapy and neuro-linguistic programming. So we go backwards, we go forwards, we go sideways, we go out of sequence of events. And basically it's like 45 minutes to an hour of talking and interviewing everybody. And what I found out were the kids were playing these pranks on their mom where they were moving this doll around the house. And they were, yep. So that one, that day I spent a couple hours there interviewing, and then I marched the kids in the room with their mother to apologize to their mom.
Oh, geez. Yeah. That's good parenting, man.
Right. I didn't have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was a private investigator, and I had gotten a call because somebody else figured out, hey, he does this spooky stuff too. So this woman walks in, and she's like, I've heard that you kind of deal with both things, and I'm having this problem. I'm not sure what's going on. And she describes the activity, and I was like, okay, well, how about we do this? Because it sounds like you could possibly have some bugs. So I'll charge it as a bug sweep. If we find things going on there, I'll charge you. If it ends up being something that is spooky, then I won't charge you for it because I don't charge for those types of investigations.
Yeah.
So I take the retainer and I get out there because this is done through my PI agency. And I started doing some debugging, and I find some weird stuff. I find some speakers hidden, and I one was a EM pump. And so I started all these little speakers, and I found like some microphones and stuff. And I found some things around one of the windows that looked like someone had been spending quite a bit of time there on the outside. So I was like, okay, so let's see what's going on here. So I do this investigation, and I set my own stuff up. And she's very, very wealthy. This was a massive estate. This was like one of those houses Scooby-Doo crew would get lost.
Yeah. Right.
So her adult children were sneaking into the house, pretending to be ghosts in costume. Sometimes they would come in and they would move her stuff around. They would move her.
No way.
They were gaslighting her and making her think that she was crazy, trying to get her to talk to people about her house being haunted so that they could get a what is it? A right of an attorney, or they could basically take control of her estate and have her committed and push her off to a home.
Oh my God.
And take control of the hundreds of millions that this woman was worth. So this, so they got written out of the will.
Yeah, I guarantee that.
Yeah, that was, I had a couple of cases, like it was all the same year too, and I called them my Scooby-Doo cases, where I just had a couple of things that were messed up like that were just people trying to gaslight their elderly parents into taking control of their fortunes. Yeah.
So how many wills are you in now? Because you found this out.
Zero. Okay, here's the part about being a PI that people don't talk about is we're associated with that person's worst memory. Like we're the person who steps in on the worst day of their life to take care of something they never thought they would have to deal with. So the sooner we're out of their life, the better.
God, man, that's so messed up. I'm wondering what Scooby-Doo episode pawned this thought in their head.
I know.
That's so perfect explanation. Nicole had another question. She says, have you guys had a case that involved a Ouija board? I've had two that, were kind of messed up. One where he had it nailed on his garage with the planchette on it. And and his tools were like catching on fire when he was using them and stuff. I'm like, well, let's try moving this first, and I'll check your electrical and stuff. And Yeah, his electric was fine. It was testing fine. I was like, yeah, just get rid of that thing, and I guarantee it won't happen again. So it brought that to ease. I don't know what could cause a tool to catch on fire while you're using it. I mean, they were pretty new tools too, so it was interesting. What about you?
I've never had one that directly involved them. I play with them from time to time. I think it's a
Yeah.
fun board game.
Yeah, fun board game. Yeah. I think spirits get pissed that they have to spell everything out. That's why I love using the spirit box. I seen this TikTok video where they were using one, and this can went flying and hit the guy in the head because he was taking too long. Oh man. But yeah, everybody's excited about your Scooby stories.
Right.
In fact, Mark wants to know, did you find any of the Scooby snacks?
We did not.
Let's see. She says, I had a K2 after at the Omen house. Oh, okay.
Nice.
So what do you think about the K2s and electromagnetic fields? Is it a good way to find stuff that's leaking in the house, maybe like that junction box, right?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I use K2s and different EMS for. The tri-field is my favorite. The old analog one's great. The new digital one's even more sensitive and accurate than the old one from Alpha. Yep. So if you haven't like update it, it's $180 and it's an awesome piece of tech.
Oh, okay.
But it's so I use them for debunking. I look for sources. I look for things that shouldn't, places where I shouldn't be getting readings that would indicate something being hidden, like a speaker box or something for a hoax. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but I also don't want to be taken for a ride. So I go through this checklist. So it's like, okay, is there a natural explanation? Is there fraud involved? And then we'll start getting into the supernatural stuff. I have had instances like that one time at that full torso apparition at Fletcher Park, where it buried the needle when we had that flash of ghost. The equipment went off. There's a lot of argument because it doesn't happen every time, but also there's not a lot of people that are using them correctly. A lot of people don't realize that there's only really a 10-foot range on most of those. So if it's more than 10 feet away, you're not going to get an accurate reading. The closer you are, the more accurate the reading is. That's why it gets stronger as you get closer to it. And then I've seen a lot of people use the natural tri-fields as handheld units walking around and getting all sorts of readings because those were designed to be stationary units that would just observe the room. So I think when they're being used correctly, we get more. There's more, positive hits from it when there's actual activity happening, but it's just one little thing. So I like having things that will correlate. So if I get an EVP and I can match that to an EMF, great. If I get a disembodied voice, a EVP, some sort of weird anomaly in the room, an EMF, and I can get all of those pieces of data to correlate, I think it just adds weight to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one of my favorite things is like, these people that are trying to be TikTok famous and stuff, like they'll have the K2 right there as they're live and they don't realize that the live phone is the thing setting it off. Like if you're red and they move it closer to the phone, it's just, yeah.
We had one. There was it'll also pick up signals. So if you're getting the best way to fake that is to have just somebody text you so that you're getting an alert to your phone. Whenever your phone hits that signal or sends a signal, it'll light it up. Even if it's like my phone's in my pocket, the K2's up here, it's going to light up on the K2. We were trying to do a spirit communication session and we kept getting these hits on the K2 meter and it picks up Bluetooth. So I was like, hey guys, go ahead and scan, make sure there's no Bluetooth on in the house, especially anything that's disconnected that's trying to connect to something, because every time it sweeps and it hits that K2 meter, it's going to set it off. So we've found a lot of stuff, and we've been able to get rid of a lot of false positives just by finding things that should be turned off with the K2.
No, that's awesome, man. That's my favorite thing is trying to debunk my own stuff. Like I'll sit there and like if something happened that I can't explain, I'm like, okay, let's go through this, Like I had this one case, and I was downstairs. I was live, and I'm looking this way, and I hear this right by my ear, and I turn around, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a raccoon. So I turned on all the lights, looking for it. There was nothing there, and I was just like, oh my god. I'm like, what am I dealing with? It's kind of freaky. So cameras. I use a Polaroid. I like using Polaroids because it's pretty genuine. It's not too high tech, but they're easier to debunk because you got the picture right there. And I've gotten some crazy stuff on a digital camera too, but I've always said, okay, this must have been a light flare, something reflecting. What do you think about cameras?
I think they're good for backing up personal experiences. The big thing, and this is something that gets overlooked a lot with investigators. Your personal experience is the most important piece of evidence you're going to get at a location. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter. Every piece of every photo and every video, especially with the AI tools that we have now, everything can be faked. So it doesn't matter what you put out there as evidence of the paranormal, they're going to say it's fake. So other than keeping it for yourself, there's not really a whole lot of a reason to have it unless you're proving it for some sort of some religious organizations require photographs, require evidence, and require a very high standard of investigation before they'll send someone to do anything about it.
Right.
So if you're doing investigations for that, yes, cameras work great. I use GoPros and I use video. I don't really do a lot of still photos unless I'm just documenting stuff for documenting scenes and building out the file. So like I'll go in, I'll do the baselines, same way that I would do any sort of crime scene or anything, or accident scene. I do a shot from each corner of the room, wide shots of everything that's interesting, and go through the house I go counterclockwise. I think most people go counterclockwise on everything, but I just go through the home like that, get those photographs, draw out my diagram of the house so that I can take notes and kind of mark for, visual of where things are happening. So I can set up my equipment. I'll mark where equipment and stuff's set up. But I like video primarily because it documents what I'm doing. So there's been times where we've gotten a disembodied voice, but on the video we can see somebody on the other side of the house, and it was just the way that it carried through the vents and hit the recorder. So we've been able to debunk that way.
Yeah, definitely.
But the big thing is just recording what you're doing. And if you do see something that's picked up on the camera, it's amazing because when you're talking to other investigators, you can kind of use that as a, hey, look at this. This is nuts. But nobody's going to take that as actual evidence. Your experience is more important to you saying that something is haunted than the actual evidence.
Unless it's live, like I'm actually seeing what they're seeing, and if something appeared, I'd be like, okay, this is live. They can't Photoshop that, unless somebody had the sheet over them and ran across.
Oh, dude, I did special effects in a haunted house. There's ways.
Is there ways? Yeah, really? Oh man,
there's ways.
And timestamps, like if you are recording, I always make sure that my timestamps are set, with the actual time and date and everything. And like you said, I trust the GoPros. I usually put 2 in opposite corners, so because they have that 180 degrees, so the whole room's pretty much captured, plus the one on my hat, so you're seeing what I'm seeing. So I always think that's the best way, because all the timestamps are correlated, and I can put them all on the screen at the same time. And
unless you want to take the time to set up an NVR or something, GoPros are definitely the way to go. I used high 8mm cameras when I first started. Then I went to the DVR, and then the NVRs have been fantastic. But if you notice, you don't get as much on 4K as you did with the earlier stuff.
No, I just use the 1080s. That's all I got are 1080p. So tell us more about your podcast, Ghost Hunter Advice. I know you said you take questions and stuff. How many questions do you get until you decide to do a show?
It depends. Like I'll look at the questions, and when it looks like I have about an hour's worth of content, I'll put out an episode.
Okay.
So people just email their questions to ghosthunteradvice@gmail.com. I go over questions about tech. I go over questions about getting access to locations. doing detailed histories. Most of the evidence that I get on stuff is actually from the history of the property and people who lived there before the people who are in the houses or on the properties. But yeah, just whenever I have about an hour's worth of content, I'll put that out. I'll send an email out so they know when the show's coming out, and I don't just leave them hanging because it might be a couple weeks before I have enough to do an episode. So like, if you email me, I'm going to email you back your answer, but then I'm also going to tell you like, hey, I'm going to be doing this podcast episode on this date, this time on Parapost Network. Drop the link in there, so people can like add to, hey, thanks for answering my question, but I also have this, and this, and then we just kind of roll from there.
And then you of course set up all your advertising, for Parapost and stuff. Is there a particular day you usually try to do the podcast on, or it's just whenever you got that?
Yeah. So my day job, I work, especially right now because we're ramping up and trying to get a lot of properties. I mean, I'm working 16 to 20 hour days. So it's whenever, all right, I have this hole in my schedule coming up. I'm going to do the episode this day. And then also doing the other stuff for the other podcasts and stuff that are actually monetized.
Okay. All right. You're a busy man, dude. How do you get this time? I'm glad you could come on today. You made time for us. Our little show, dude.
No, time blocking, man. That's so I've written four books at between the hours of 4 and 6 in the morning. So like, you just get up early, start the day, block it. I was out running stuff, doing marketing before I jumped on here, and then I'm going to go back out as soon as we're off. But it's just taking control of your time.
Yeah, man. No, I can't thank you enough. This has been awesome. So, so you don't do any more cases now. So if a family reached out, with everything that they've heard today, what would you tell them?
So I still do some cases, but I'm more of a content creator than an investigator now. So if it's something they really need help with, yeah, I'll go out and help them. But there's stages. So I would start off with a notebook, go through therapy, talk to a counselor, talk to people, start doing some more positive things. If they make it through that, I'll go out and do the investigation. I can also refer them to different teams.
So being in real estate, when you get these properties, when it's empty, are you like, just sneak out to the car, grab the voice recorder K2, make sure it's not haunted?
Nope. No, there are cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody's got cameras set up. So nope. I keep those as far apart as I can.
You get people that say, "Oh, my house is haunted. That's why I'm moving," and you're like, "Oh, you found the right real estate agent."
Somebody turned me on to this show on Sci-Fi that's called Surreal Estate. It's apparently they're real estate agents that specialize, and they call them problem properties.
Oh, okay.
So they deal with hauntings and they clear them and then they sell the property. So that's pretty cool. There's a book by Grady Hendrix, if you guys like horror novels, called How to Sell a Haunted House, and it's amazing.
Oh. Is it? I'm gonna have to check that out, man. That's crazy. So I don't know, man. Like, there's so much that I have questions about, like your theories on like demons.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say? What do you think about that, and like what the Catholic Church does for exorcisms and stuff?
I think it's interesting. Like a big thing that gets left out in a lot of movies is in the rites. As you're going through the investigation, as you're setting things up to actually do an exorcism, one of the things that you have to find out during the investigative process, is it a demon that is under the authority of the Christian God or the Catholic God? So they recognize different entities from different faiths and different entities from outside of like angelic, demonic, supernatural, and preternatural stuff. So I think that is interesting, and it gets left out a lot. With demons and things, again, I go back and forth on whether it's things that have always been here that have been sucked into our religions, and these are just the terms that we've come to describe these things as, or if it's things that we've actually created. If you're familiar with the Philip Project, or the Philip experiment, it was a group of people that actually caused manifestations and caused activity to happen just from belief and theater around the idea. If you have hundreds or thousands of years of people believing one thing and believing in an entity and believing certain things happen a certain way, I think it has an effect.
Yeah, definitely. See, me personally, I've never, unless I see it or I've experienced it, I just won't believe it. I don't know, man. Like, I think if they were a jerk or, really bad person in life, I think their consciousness or their spirit, is going to be a jerk. You know what I mean? And I've never seen anything, black shadow, red eyes, like in the movies and stuff, even in exorcism, if I would love to see an exorcism sometime, see somebody that's believes they're actually possessed.
Mhm.
I've never heard of it, or I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it or heard of it happening here. So
There was one case that I did. There's been two, but there was one in particular that ended in a. It wasn't Catholic, so it's technically not an exorcism, but in a deliverance. So the minister was there. He got sick. I got involved. I don't want to go into like a ton of detail, but we
yeah,
had things coming off the wall. We saw this very solid shadow, not cast on a wall, not cast on the floor, actually standing in the room. And this one is one that I have absolutely no freaking way to explain. Outside of maybe demons are real, but it had these massive wings that I can't describe as anything else but these massive wings that opened up in the middle of the house, in the middle of the hallway there. And it I ended up getting involved, and actually, like, the minister crumpled over, handed me the book, pointed, and I started reading. Things got very intense, and then it just stopped. I was sick for days after that. There was a pain and a tiredness that I've never experienced. Something hurt. I have no idea what it was, but there was just something in me that was just a deep, deep, deep tired. And
like
that is
depression or just
no,
like
just tired. It was
brain,
so
just
I was I competed in Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit. It
yeah.
was like I had gone and done 2 or 3 CrossFit competitions in a single day. Like, my
Wow.
muscles hurt, my muscles were sore, and there was a pain in the center of me that I couldn't place to a physical part of my body, if that makes sense. It was like my soul was tired. Is the best way that I can describe that.
Dude,
But
you
I
need
was
to make a movie of that.
I was sick
I
for
would buy the first
days.
tickets, dude. I'm telling you, if you need to make a movie, I'll play you, dude. Because you'd be too busy directing, man. That is a story, dude. That is amazing. Like, I mean, just in the aspect of what we do in our research, I mean, to be there and experience that's crazy. And then suffering afterwards sucks, but I've had that happen where you're drained. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about it. But it's maybe it doesn't happen to ministers and people who like prepare properly to do
Right.
that
Yeah.
thing, but oh my God, that was awful.
I mean, to have the priest, on the ground pointing to the book because he can't do anything, that would set a blockbuster. I guarantee you,
Like,
man. That'd be
like,
a
oh my
great
God.
movie. Oh man, dude. So we're coming up almost on an hour. I know you got things to do. I think AJ's not feeling well, so he took off. So, but man, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk with us. I'd love to have you on again and shoot some stuff, and I'm sure we can arrange that. But yeah, man, I would love to show you some of my stuff. Do you have any YouTube videos of your investigations that people could watch? I mean, after the show, dude, like I want to go see some of your stuff.
No, I don't post evidence or anything like that. It's just how to's and advice on things. But yeah, no, it's fun. And that's something that I think a lot of people, that part was not.
Yeah, right.
But there's most of what I do now is helping people set up for their first time to go like ghost hunting.
Yeah. Well, don't tell them that story, or else
They're gone. They're out.
they won't go.
That's one that I don't talk about a lot. But yeah.
No, I'm glad you shared it with us, man. I really appreciate all your time. I wish you nothing but love and light on your journey. And, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on, man. It's been great.
Yeah. And I'm saying bye for AJ too. All right. Thanks, T. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Amazing show. T was awesome. So subscribe to Parapost Network, and you can see his podcast. I'm sure. I can't wait to see his next one. I'm definitely going to watch it. And we lost AJ. I don't know what happened to AJ. I think he got sick. He didn't look too well in the beginning. So yeah, it was definitely a great story that he told. I can't thank him enough for that. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday. And man, I'm just kind of overwhelmed. So, but thanks again. We'll see you.